Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Perseverance Mindset Podcast. I am your host, as always, John Zedzer, and we're coming to you live right here from the Dialogue Den. In our episode today, we're going to break down some incredible journeys of those who refuse to give up. And we're coming to you again live from our Dialogue Den, the place where real stories of resilience take center stage. Today's episode is about a man and his legacy. The definition of perseverance: he's a two-time heavyweight champion, an Olympic gold medalist, a preacher, a businessman, and a man that went from having nothing to building an empire. We're talking about a lot more than a George Foreman grill. We're talking about the one and only George Foreman. His journey is packed with lessons on grit, second chances, and reinvention of a person and their self in their journey. We're diving deep into his early struggles, his rise in boxing, his shocking losses, and even some more shocking, his comeback. Plus, we'll talk about a lot more of how he became one of the most unlikely businessmen of our time. So sit tight, get inspired, and let's step into the ring with Big George Foreman. Before George Foreman became a heavyweight world champion, he was just a kid growing up in Houston's Fifth Ward, one of the roughest neighborhoods in Texas. He was born in 1949 into a life of poverty, crime, and just struggle in his community and his area. Foreman also said he was an angry and troubled kid, constantly getting into fights, skipping school, heading down the wrong path. And he was already involved in street crime and gang activity, even at a young age, guys. This is the reality that still so many kids face today. But here's where the story takes a turn. At age 15, he saw a commercial for the Job Corps, a program aimed at helping underprivileged youth. Something in him said, "This is my way out." So many of the troubled kids are looking for a way out. George Foreman found his way out in the Job Corps. He joined the program, he moved to California, he started learning skills that would just change his life, give him a whole new perspective on his life. While in the Job Corps, Foreman met a mentor who would completely reshape his future, Doc. Doc saw a raw talent in George's aggression, physical strength, and introduced him into the world of boxing. Foreman wasn't just good at boxing, he was a natural. His power was unchecked, unreal, and within just a few years of stepping into that ring, he was fighting for something much bigger than himself. That something was the 1968 Olympics. Now we want to get into a little bit more of the Olympics and George Foreman's impact on the Olympic Games. In 1968, in Mexico City, were historic for many reasons. But one of those standout moments, George Foreman dominating the heavyweight boxing division. Just at 19 years old, Foreman was a powerhouse. Again, known for his punching and his aggression. He fought with sheer strength, knocking out opponents left, right, center, wherever he can hit them. Then, in the final match, he destroyed the Soviet boxer Jonas Seppolis. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Winning by a TKO in the second round. Here's one of the most iconic moments in sports history. After winning, George Foreman grabbed a small American flag and waved it in the ring, running in celebration. This was during a time of political protests and division in the United States, and Foreman said he wanted to show his pride in his country despite growing up in poverty and hardship. That is an inspiring story. I'm inspired by that. Leaders and mentors like that for the next generation of America. Now that launched him into professional boxing, where he would soon face legends like Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali. But as we know, success in boxing doesn't come easy. It's not an easy trail. It's not an easy road. And you have to take a hit and get a hit and receive it and fight back, never giving up. That's the story of George Foreman. But again, after George Foreman turned pro and bulldozed, and I use that term, bulldozed through the heavyweight division, his sheer power was unmatched. He knocked out his first 24 professional opponents. Then in 1973, he got his shot at the title and he faced the undefeated Joe Frazier, who had beaten Muhammad Ali and absolutely destroyed him in 2 rounds. Frazier hit the canvas 6 times. George Foreman was now heavyweight champion of the world. Big George, the name was coined and phrased. But then came 1974, the fight that changed boxing history and George's life as well. The Rumble in the Jungle. Foreman versus Ali, Zaire, Africa. A worldwide spectacle. Foreman was the favorite. He was younger, stronger, but he had never been knocked down. Muhammad Ali had a strategy, the rope-a-dope. He let Foreman punch himself out, get purely exhausted by the brute strength of George Foreman and his ability to just hit and throw haymakers. Boom. Ali knocked him out. Just like that. Foreman lost his title, fell into a dark place in his life, and he later said that life, quoted from George Foreman, that loss crushed me. took my whole identity away. Retired from boxing at the age of 28. But this is where the story gets real interesting. George Foreman's comeback and success in business and personally. After George Foreman retired, he had a life-changing experience. He says after a near-death encounter in a locker room after a fight, which led him to find his faith, he became a Christian minister, walked away from the sport completely. This left many people shocked. For 10 years, he preached and worked with youth, but by the late 1980s, he was broke. So what did he do? In a story of one of the most biggest business entrepreneurships in history, at 38 years old, heavyweight, at 38 years old, overweight, and considered a has-been, Foreman announced he was coming back into the ring of boxing. People laughed. They said he was too old, too slow. But by 1994, at the age of 45, George Foreman had fought Michael Moorer, champion, 19 years younger than him. And in the 10th round, George Foreman knocked him out, became the oldest heavyweight champion in history. What an achievement. Shocked the world at that time. And then pulled off an even bigger knockout, this time in the business world. Foreman became the face of the George Foreman grill, ironically. Again, knocking the fat out of meat. I don't know if it knocked the fat out of meat, but it was a hell of a grill. He sold over 100 million units worldwide and made $138 million himself from the deal. His business success dwarfed his boxing earnings, made it look very little to none. From the streets to the Olympics to world champion to broke to making hundreds of millions of dollars. What did George Foreman do in his incredible, inspiring life? George Foreman proved that comebacks are always possible, no matter where you are in your life. So what's the lesson we learn in this tribute episode to George Foreman? Your past doesn't define you. Failure isn't final. Comebacks are always capable. Hard work, faith, and perseverance can change your destiny. Never giving up on your abilities and your God-given talents. Again, guys, for all of our perseverance pioneers out there, that's it for today's episode of the Perseverance Mindset Podcast. If you found this episode inspiring, subscribe, share it with someone who needs a reminder to keep fighting, never give up, and you're never finished in life. So until next time, folks, keep pushing forward.